Fernandes, working as a lecturer in Milagros College in the Department of Food, Nutrition and Dietetics. And today I am going to deal with the topic, that is nomenclature of fatty acids. So you can see a big molecule over here. This molecule contains 18 carbon atoms and there is a functional group, that is carboxylic acid group. You can see the carboxylic acid group, that is COOH. So hence it contains the acid group. It will be coming under fatty acids and it's a long chain of carbon atoms. Hence we are going to see here the naming system. Nomenclature itself indicates that we are here to learn the naming system of this molecule. Now if you see the structure, when any compound ends with the functional group, the naming starts from the functional group itself. So when you see the IUPAC, that is International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, we start the naming from the functional group. So the numbering, first we have to do the numbering. We will see the longest carbon chain. So this is the longest carbon chain. Then we will target to the functional group and we'll start the numbering from the functional group. So we can see here, I just write it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. So we start the numbering from the carbon atom of the functional group, that is carboxylic acid group, and we do the numbering where we end to the 18th carbon atom. So this is how we do the numbering. Now if you see the whole molecule, there is only a single bond present in the molecule, and hence such type of molecule is called as saturated compound. It will come under saturated compound. So once if I want to start the naming, since there is an acid group present, for any functional group there is a particular name. So here, as it is an carboxylic acid group, the naming will be OIC. So we'll write as this particular functional group will be named as OIC, that is OIC. Now I want to name this molecule. So it contains a saturated carbon atom. There are total 18 carbon atoms. So hence it will be told as octa, since there is an 8, and for 10 we call it as deca. So this particular molecule will be called as octadecanoic acid. Oic because of the functional group COOH, octadecanoic because there are total 18 carbon atoms. So hence we write the name, that is octadecanoic acid. So this is the IUPAC name, and the common name for this will be stearic acid. So this will be the common name and this will be the IUPAC name. Now I told this molecule is a saturated molecule. Say for example, I put a double bond on the 9th carbon. So when we count the carbon atoms from there, the 9th carbon will be having the double bond. So such molecule will be called as unsaturated compound. So unsaturated compound means there is a double bond. So now the naming will be octadecanoic acid. Octadecanoic acid. You can see the name ane, you can see the name ene. So when it is a normal alkane, the ending was ane, and when there is a double bond introduced there, the naming will be ene. And when we are giving the nomenclature, that time we do not write this E. This E is removed. There is no E written. Instead of writing E, we introduce the functional group naming, that is OIC. So here you can see we have written enoic acid, enoic acid. So this is about the functional group introduced in the fatty acid chain molecule, and this is how for 18 carbons we are naming as octadecanoic acid, since it was a single bonded carbon atom chain in the earlier. Second, we are writing it as octadecanoic acid, octadecanoic acid because of your double bond introduced on the 9th carbon. Now this we can get it that this is a single carbon chain, this is a double carbon chain. But here we have to see where is the double bond present. To see that where the double bond is present, we see the numbering. So it's on the 9th carbon, so I write it as 9. Between a number and the alphabet, there will be a hyphen. If there are two numbers, there will be a comma. That we'll see in the next example. So here we name it as 9-octadecanoic acid. If you see the molecule is in a cis conformation. That means the molecule contains C, single bond C, or double bond C, C double bond C. There are simple H in the chain near to the double bond. So this conformation is nothing but cis conformation. So hence we name it as cis 9-octadecanoic acid, also called as oleic acid. Similarly, if I have my double bond on the 13th carbon, then I will name it as cis put a comma 9, 13 octadec dienoic acid. We use the word di because of there are two dienes. So it will be octadeca, DECA, octadeca dienoic acid, and this will be called as linoleic acid. This is how you name it. Next one, if I put a double bond on the 15 carbon atom, so there will be 3 double bonds now. So how will you name? It is containing all cis 9, 13, 15 octadeca. This time there are 3, so we will tell trienoic acid. And the common name for this molecule will be linolenic acid. So how this will be named? Stearic acid, oleic acid, linoleic acid, and linolenic acid. So you can see how the naming is done, IUPAC as well as the common name. So this is how the naming is done. Now this is the simple IUPAC nomenclature. IUPAC nomenclature. This is a common naming system. Common naming system. So for fatty acids, there is also a shorthand representation system. So let's see the shorthand representation system. So what all we have here is, since there are 18 carbon atoms, so in shorthand representation, we simply write it as 18. Say for example, we write for the first one. So we first write the 18 carbon atoms. We put a dot, that is indicating the double bonds. Then we will see on which position. So when we saw the first carbon atom, the first chain, that is octadecanoic acid, there was no double bond in the molecule. So we simply write a 0, indicating no double bond. So this is a shorthand representation for the stearic acid. Let's look the shorthand representation for oleic acid. So again the same thing, it contains 18 carbon atoms. Then we write it as double bond. How many double bonds? There was only one double bond. Again, we write the same thing. The double bond was on the 9th position. The second molecule I'm talking about. So I write it as 9th position. Next is linolenic acid. For linoleic acid, again the same thing, 18, 2 double bonds, 9 and 13 carbon atom. Similarly, 18, 3 double bonds, 9, 13 and 15 carbon atoms. So this is how we do the shorthand representation for the nomenclature of fatty acids. Now there is another way in shorthand representation Here we only showed the number of carbon atoms, and we showed the double bonds, number of double bonds present, and we showed the position where it is present. Okay, there is another system wherein we also write delta. So in delta, this is the symbol, a Greek letter, that is delta, D-E-L-T-A. It's a Greek letter. So here we will mention delta, which indicates the double bond in the molecule, and we have to write where the double bond is present. So in this, the first molecule, there is no double bond, so you are not going to write anything over here. It will be just a delta. So we will not going to write anything over here since there is a no double bond, so we will not write any delta there. Second, we will write here. So the double bond present in 9th position, double bond is present in 13th position, and the double bond is present in double bond is present in 9th and 13th position, double bond is present in 9th, 13th and 15th position. So this is how we write the delta numbering system. That is, delta indicates the double bond in the molecule, position where it is, that is the 9th position. In third molecule, it is present in 9th and the 13th position, and in the last molecule, it is present in 9th, 13th and 15th position. So this is how we do the numbering for the fatty acid, that is a nomenclature. Here is a summary of it. The first is, we saw the saturated functional group, saturated chain that contains single bond, where we name it as A and E, unsaturated E and E. For numbering, we are just removing the E and we are keeping it as AN and EN. Then we are adding the functional group, that is OIC. Numbering starting from the functional group, counting of the 18 carbon atoms. Then we looked on to the molecule, we counted as octadecanoic acid. When I introduced a double bond, it became a decenoic acid. For two double bond, didecanoic acid, trienoic acid. So this is how we did the numbering. Second thing, I told you about the shorthand representation. In shorthand representation, we wrote how many carbon atoms are present, where is the double bond present, which position, and also we showed how many double bonds are present. Similarly, here also we have written the position of where is the double bond present. So in this way, we come to know what is the molecule, how to name it, and that is all about nomenclature of fatty acids. Apart from this, there is another thing, that is, we also have a Greek letter called as omega. Now this omega is the last Greek letter in the alphabet series. So this omega, O-M-E-G-A, omega, is also used to name the fatty acid. Say for example, for the first fatty acid, this omega system depends on the number of double bonds. So first fatty acid doesn't contain any double bond. The second fatty acid will be named as omega 9. The third fatty acid will be named as omega 6, and the fourth fatty acid will be named as omega 3. Now how am I naming it as omega 6, omega 9 and omega 3? So let's see one by one. So if you see the molecule, the omega system starts the numbering from the terminal carbon atom, that is this. If you can see, the first one is that functional group carbon atom, and this is a terminal carbon atom. So it will be named as omega 1, omega 2, omega 3, omega 4, omega 5, omega 6, omega 7, omega 8, omega 9, omega 10, omega 11, omega 12, omega 13, omega 14, omega 15, omega 16 and omega 17. The last omega 18 is not calculated in for omega system. Omega numbering is not given for the functional group carbon. So there are only omega 17 carbons as per the omega system of numbering. So here when you see, for the first thing I told omega should contain a double bond. So there was no double bond, so we don't write anything. Next is when I say 9 octadecanoic acid. So if I see for the first molecule, the double bond was here for the first molecule. So my numbering will be omega. It will be starting from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. On the 9th carbon is a double bond, so I name it as omega 9 fatty acid. We call it as omega 9 fatty acid. For my second molecule, the double bonds were on 9th and 13th position. So it was on 9th position and it was on 13th position. So we always take the first omega carbon. So omega 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is my carbon 13th position for the previous one. So I name it as omega 13. Carbon 13 will be named as omega 6 fatty acid. Similarly, for third one, it is on the 15th position. That is, the double bonds are on 9th, 13th and 15th position. For my omega system, it is omega 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So these are the 9 carbons. I have to look for the first carbon, that is a 15th position carbon atom. So my 15th position lies for omega 3. So I name it as omega 3 fatty acids. So this is how we do the nomenclature for fatty acid, that is the naming system for the fatty acids. Thank you.